Let's hear what Dave Ramsey has to say about the current state of the housing market.
Brought to you by the EveryDollar app. Start budgeting for free today.
Hey, Dave, can I ask you a quick real estate question real quick?
You can.
All right, so this might be bad math in my head. So let's say we're in Nashville, Tennessee, where the real estate has gone way up in value over the last 5 to 10 years, right?
Okay.
So let's say the house I bought back in 2020 is quote-unquote worth double.
Mm-hmm.
And I put it on the market for double what I paid for it in 2020.
Mm-hmm.
And let's say because of the influx in inventory, I have to drop the price a bit.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody comes in and bids $10,000 less. So it's just a little under double.
Okay.
I feel like on social media and whatever, the report is house prices are falling. But the way I look at it is I'm still on house money because it's worth almost double what I paid for it. And
Well, yeah. I mean, both of these can be true at the same time. If your house goes up 200% and then down 10%, it went up 200% and then is down 10%. I mean, duh.
just because I take is that a bad way for me to look at the real estate investment?
Okay.
Do you get what I'm saying?
No, it is house money, but it's different than that. The reason social media is wrong is for a different reason. Market value of a property, by definition, when I went to real estate, when I got my 4-year degree in real estate, I have a degree in real estate and finance. If you go to appraisal class and you go to take your real estate test, they teach you this. The definition of market value of a piece of real estate is what a willing buyer is able to give a willing seller,
100%.
willing, when neither are under duress.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So, in other words, if you're getting foreclosed on, that's not a valid say. You can't use that sale when you're doing an appraisal.
Right.
Because it does not
Correct.
establish market value because one of the parties is under duress. Okay? If you've had a house on the market, if you bought another house and you're having to sell your house out of desperation because you shouldn't have bought the other house and now you got 2 house payments, one of the parties is under duress. Okay?
So they might sell it quote-unquote below market value.
Yes.
Just to get
Yeah, and it basically when the housing market is hot, all houses, not all, but a lot of the houses are going for 5 or 10% over what you put it on the market for. And when it's a buyer's market, they're just going for 5 or 10% below what you put it on the market for. So, I look at this all the time. I check the stats, and basically it's never dead even across the board. Let's just say everybody lists their house for $1 million and everybody sells their house for $1 million. It just doesn't happen. And that's because people are attacking the problem from both sides and coming to an agreement. So he's absolutely right on this.
Yes, but it does not establish market value. So when someone says house price,
Right, it's market value. It's not what it's listed as. Market value is what it's sold for.
prices are going down, they mean market values are going down. Market values have not gone down. But there are some parties, because the market has been sluggish, that are under duress
Gotcha.
and are selling.
Because they may have leveraged a bunch
They're
of
what you
properties.
call a motivated seller for one reason or another. And house has been sitting on the market, and they lower the price below.
He may mention this too, but it also has a lot to do with interest rates. So if you list your house for just easy math, $1 million, and interest rates are 5%, and if that house sits there for, let's just say, 1 month, and in that time, the interest rates or the mortgage rates, the federal funds rates goes up or down, technically that changes the amount of mortgage that someone will have to pay. So the amount that your house is worth, quote unquote, is actually changing all the time for a lot of factors. And it could be that your neighbor sold their house for a higher or lower price. I just had a client and they said, Aaron, I'd love to sell my house for $1.4 million. And I said, okay, cool. We looked, there was a neighbor right next to them that had sold their house for $1.4 million. Well, not so fast. We saw that when the deal closed that they actually sold it for 1.25. And my client said, wow, they listed for 1.4 and sold for 1.25. I don't necessarily want to sell for 1.25. So that information changed what his house was, quote unquote, worth.
What the appraisal would be, what a willing buyer but they're no longer without duress. They have duress, meaning there's a stress. They're in a stress situation.
Okay.
And so that doesn't establish market value. That doesn't establish what home prices are doing. Now, but if you're in a seller's market, then the buyers are under duress because they can't. That's when you get 83 offers on the house. If you're in a buyer's market, which we haven't seen in a long time,
not really
inventory
duress.
never kept up with demand. But if you're in a buyer's market, that means there's houses everywhere, and the buyers could come in and cherry pick what they want, and they can demand stuff from sellers because the sellers are under more stress. And that drives prices down.
So there's a difference between market conditions and duress, which I didn't think he actually addressed that well here.
We haven't seen that in 2 decades.
But even if market value went down 20,
We're actually seeing it right now. There's a ton of houses on the market, and a lot of them are sitting for a long time. So there's also kind of some sectors of the market that have a lot more offers and other sectors that don't. You know, just there's a kind of a general average of what people are demanding. And if you want to buy something outside of that general demand, then it's a little different in your calculations.
20%. I'm still up.
You're
in
still
my
on house
investment.
market, but house prices would have gone down if that was the case.
Correct. There you go.
So social media would be correct, but social media is a drama queen.
Correct.
It's not
That's true.
functioning on anything except, some 20-something-year-old living in his mother's basement having a little snowflake attack.
Correct.
And that's your social media. That's not got anything to do with the actual reality of what's happening in the market. That's just somebody pissed off because they feel like they got boxed out of the market because they're a barista after getting a
Often-
PhD.
Or they're
Often
pissed off
true.
because they
Often true.
did some napkin math and looked at the wrong internet website and said, my house is worth $1.2 million. They get an offer for $700,000, and in their soul, they feel like they lost $500,000. When
Yes, one of the banes of pricing houses is Zillow. It's wild. It goes up and down. People will tell me, oh, my house is worth $1 million, and then I'll have to go show them what their $1 million house isn't, basically. I'll say, no, this is $1 million house next to your house. So people get a lot of wild ideas about what their house is worth from the internet. Absolutely true. And I have software that checks all of this specifically.
they may have
If it
bought
was
the
not
house.
if it was not worth 1.2,
That's exactly right.
yeah, it was never worth that. And so, is there actual market value? So, if you're going to do an appraisal on a piece of residential real estate, you find 3 comparable sales within the last 90
Or
days,
more.
comparable in area, comparable in attributes, and comparable in square footage. And you adjust for square footage. If one's a 5-bedroom, one's a 4-bedroom, one's got 6 baths, one's got 4.
What you do in this case is you're doing a price per square foot, and that makes your calculations a lot easier.
Baths. One's got a 5-car garage, one's got a 3-car garage. You adjust for the differences.
Oh man, so I don't think that that's the best way. What you should actually do is find something that has the same number of bedrooms and bathrooms and garage spaces. If you're trying to do a comp for, this is a 3-car garage versus a 1-car garage, and this one's 2,800 square feet and this one's 1,200 square feet, no, absolutely not. That's going to be a terrible calculation.
And you do that, and then you take the average of those 3 after adjustments, and you have a residential appraisal. But the qualification is all 3 of those comparable sales cannot have had a buyer or a seller under duress. So you can't use 2 foreclosures in the neighborhood
Gotcha.
as your comp, as your comparable sale.
Unless you're selling a foreclosure.
Otherwise, you have an invalid appraisal.
What they do in 2008 when whole neighborhoods were getting wiped out.
Well, then you've got a new market. The market established that this neighborhood is foreclosure neighborhood.
Okay.
So it drove it down.
Yep.
Because everything in there was. So if you had like those townhouses and stuff where they, where these bogus investment deals, that's what will happen in 2008, and the mortgage bank securities, all that crap crashed, and so they started punting on these loans left and right, and so they end up with whole neighborhoods back. Now you got a complete reset on that neighborhood. But that's not a statement of real estate. That's a statement of that neighborhood. That neighborhood was full of investment real estate, 100% renters. And
that almost never happens. I've never heard of a neighborhood being entire 100% renters.
100% of the investors, in air quotes,
Were leveraged.
walked away.
Right.
And so now you got to reset. And now we've got, what will people pay in that neighborhood that where neither are under duress. And that takes about a generation to get through that. Not a generation of people, but a generation of sales. Because the bank, when they take it back, they're under duress.
Okay.
So when the bank resells it, you can't count that. That's a real estate owned, an REO. You can't count that as your appraisal. And so that's what we're getting into. So no, that's what this thing I just said, go to our website. We track this stuff. There's 1,036,101 homes on the market right now. We know exactly how many are on the market.
Very precise.
Exactly. And we're tracking all this stuff
Now there was one sold that's changed.
in detail. And you can go there and find the actual data. And your month over month over month, every month this year, median house price, which is the middle, not the average, it's the middle of house prices, is what a median is in statistics, has gone up every single month. It's not gone up much. It's gone up like $1,000 or $2,000.
But it's not crashing like everybody.
It's not going down. Right. Is the point?
Like I was just saying, some sectors can be going up, some sectors can be going down. Both of these things can be happening at once. Usually, the high end of the market will experience the biggest fluctuations in appreciation and depreciation. So what I do is I actually break it down into like kind of average houses, lower houses, and higher houses to get a better picture of the market. The entire market may be going up, but that's because, for example, record sales have been hitting for high-end houses, or maybe there's a bunch of investors coming in and buying up the low-end houses. So if you look a little more carefully, you can actually determine more about the market.
It's going up. And there's good inventory, and there's good demand, and everybody's sitting around waiting to see if the Fed chairman's really going to get fired and if we're really going to see some interest rates adjusted. And once they get past that waiting game, probably about September, you may see this market take off like a dadgum hair on fire thing. September could be wild.
So during COVID, when interest rates went down, the market absolutely shot up, but it took a few months. Now, it's a little different because there was more uncertainty during that time, but when interest rates go down, it actually takes a while. So what I'm suggesting to my clients is be ready. You don't want to start it, when the interest rates go down, you don't want to go to your loan guy and say, hey, I'd like to get a loan, and then to take that whole month process and to gather all your documents. You want to be ready when interest rates go down because you want to be the first person bidding on it, because most people won't do that. And I actually did the calculations on this. You could save 15 to 20% on houses by just being prepared.
In terms of house prices going up again. But we've been telling you guys this out there, and it's proven to be true. I've been telling you this for 5 years. House prices are not going down. This is not a bubble. A bubble is when there is when the prices have gone up faster than the demand. Demand has outpaced inventory. Demand is higher than supply.
Well, if you actually look, there is a bit of a bubble, but people are actually eating that bubble up. So if you look at, for example, go to Fred, which is the St. Louis Federal Reserve. They do all these charts. And you can see that, like, for example, in 2008, there was basically like a camel's hump, and then it came back down. We're in a second camel's hump, and it hasn't come back down all the way. So we are in a bubble, but we're not at the point at which the bubble is going to pop because there is a lot of demand still. But this is kind of, in a lot of ways, artificial demand because the supply is so tight and there's a bunch of investors from other countries coming in. So the market is distorted. Yes, I'm going to disagree with Ramsey here. We're in a bubble, but it is being inflated currently instead of deflated, which means that the demand is actually catching up to the bubble. See, it's not called a bubble when it's a bubble until it pops. Otherwise, it's just called appreciation.
Every time you see that in economics, you see prices go up. It's a simple thing. It's 7th grade economics, if anybody taught economics in 7th grade anymore. But that's it. I mean, when there's a shortage of goods or services, the price goes up on those. When there's an overabundance of goods or services, the price goes down on those. It's very simple. And you really can't hardly figure out any time in economics, with an open market anyway, that gets violated.
See that with an open market, but we actually have a bit of a closed market. I just made some videos on regulations and all those types of things that constrict the supply. So you can have an infinite bubble if your market is infinitely constricted. So I'm not saying that it is, but some of the technicalities and the nuance of this is lost on Ramsey. And I know he's speaking to the general public, but that's why I'm diving in here just another level on top of what he's saying.
It just shows up that way every single time, given a half a minute. But I mean, you get weird anomalies like COVID and that kind of stuff that hit a marketplace. It takes a little while to get the wrinkle out of the sheet on that, like the supply chain stuff. Same thing. But the the problem is everybody's just so frustrated that wants a house and can't get one right now.
Sure.
And so they're throwing all these darts out there that they call truth to try to make themselves feel better about it. And it's just
That's true. There's a lot of cope going on right now. Hey, I think houses are too expensive, or maybe people aren't getting paid enough. Maybe it's a little bit of a combination of both. So that was interesting. I think Dave was talking very kind of general to the general public there, but in general, I like what he has to say.